Yo.
Welcome, bienvenue, welcome to another live stream. This one is Modern Sales Meltdown with my dear friend David Treacle Chernick, myself, Gareth of the Many Purple Hats, where we talk about all things sales. Sales, not a four-letter word. Here we revere it. And today we're talking about what really constitutes the beginning of any salesperson's career with a new company. We're talking about the initial 30, 60, 90-day plan. David, why do we need such a thing?
It's it's as a salesperson, it's good to have such a thing because then you can, get into your new job. How you mean to continue? Start as you want to continue.
Start as you mean to go on, I think is the you're searching for desperately.
Losing my ability to speak. Yeah, it's a good way of kicking off your new job. From the employer's point of view, they want to know that you're going to get off to a good start as well. And quite often, especially in business sales, as part of your interview process, you'll be asked to present your 30, 60, 90-day plan. What are you going to be doing in your first 90 days? It's quite often presented as requested as the last stage in your recruitment process. Come and do a presentation to us. Maybe even prepare some slides. It's very commonly used and was originally commonly used in the tech industry. And we see it emerging in all sorts of professional business service sales. So, often they will provide you with an agenda. Here's what we want you to present on for the first 30, 60 and 90 days. And equally often, they won't give you any agenda. They'll just leave it pretty open. So what do you see?
I think it's usually more often that they don't give you any agenda, isn't it? They want you to see what kind of stuff you're made of when asked to come up and say what you're proposing to do. Although I think perhaps it's foolish to do a long-term plan until you've got your feet under the table, because often your long-term plan will be contingent on the way the team work around you, and till you've worked out where their strengths and weaknesses are and how to interact with them, then you're really sticking a wet finger in the air, aren't you?
Well, to a degree you are, but that is overcoming that particular challenge is part of the plan. In fact, that is one of the steps that you would do in your first 30 days, where you're really trying to learn and integrate. So you want to be spending that first 30 days getting to know the company, its culture, certainly its products. A lot of new salespeople really struggle to understand get the product knowledge that they require.
Right.
And even if they've been selling similar products in the past, every company will have its own language, its own product strategy, setup, pricing, how it's positioned, and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of which you could find out in advance of joining, of course, just by looking at their websites and how they present themselves to their customer base. But it's not until you get in that you really understand all about that. So the products and, of course, their own sales process. And I'm not talking about a process by which you uncover the customer's needs and problems and figure out how they want to go about solving their problems, all of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about their own customer onboarding process.
It's a process that obviously works in stages, but I would suspect it is different for each person. I mean, I know that companies would like that everybody's customer onboarding process is the same, but it varies quite dramatically. Wouldn't you agree?
For sure. So they'll have their specific requirements that they'll need to go into a contract, how they deal with purchase orders, who does what to who. What systems they are using in order to onboard a new client, and perhaps especially in tech, but also in other fields as well, you probably want to be finding out what their customer onboarding looks like. There'll be probably a customer success manager if it's a larger company. But, even if you are the first salesperson that these people have ever hired, you want to be communicating to them how you will be getting to understand what the products are all about, what their processes are, and as you mentioned earlier on, figuring out what the relationships are and forging your own relationships with people.
I remember if I can color this slightly. If I can color this slightly, I remember I was working with a tech company, and I'd landed a sale that wasn't just selling tech; it was selling tech plus technical services, and their technical services team just had never seen a deal quite that big before. But they didn't, because I hadn't researched it properly with them. I didn't realize they were struggling in the background trying to keep up with the demand. It only like a third of the way through the onboarding did I realize that. We started having to bring in external staff as on contract, but we wouldn't have known that unless I'd found that out. And I hadn't done my research up front to find it out, and that was within the first 30 days of the onboarding.
Now, that perhaps for your new employer would have been a pretty impressive thing and would have helped to solidify your position in their business. And you're really trying to be helpful there, and you wouldn't have discovered that unless you had started to cultivate the sorts of relationships that you would need in and around the company. You're trying to find a support base. You're trying to demonstrate your own capabilities and be open about the things that you are weak on, so that the people that you are nurturing these new relationships with will become part of your support base, part of your team. And that really is the first 30 days. And just as a sort of an extra pro tip here, the language that you use in order to present your 30, 60, 90 should, as much as possible, be based on your own experiences. So rather than saying this is what I would do or will do, try and talk in terms of what you have actually done. Yeah, and the same goes for when you're a salesperson selling services, you want to talk about how it's going to feel for the client when they become a client. Talk about what you've actually done, your actual lived experiences, if you have those. But that's your first 30 days, getting the fundamentals of the company, their products, and their sales process. The following 30 days, so what happens between day 31 and 60, you want to try and shift that focus a little bit, having at least got a grounding in their products and the business and sales processes. You want to be starting to engage then with their prospects. So that will mean, your usual stuff, your outreach, reaching out to prospects. It might be that you are presented with a list. So, get on to understanding who's on that list, figuring out if you need to add people to that list, qualifying those leads. We always talk on this show a lot about qualification, but doing that early qualification, start as you mean to go on. Don't get sort of hooked into what you imagine to be sales opportunities that are never going to close because they never qualified, and then you find yourself in a whole pile of trouble. A few weeks later when they start looking for some results, and then you start feeling undue pressure. So qualify the leads. Start scheduling your meetings with them. Yeah, as you're phoning them around, you're qualifying them. Qualify them so that they qualify to get a slot in your diary. Introduce yourself, and then you're uncovering opportunities. So already you're starting to build your pipeline, and it gives a lot of comfort to a new employer if they see their new salesperson starting to build a pipeline in basically their second month, and they're starting to see, oh gosh, yes, we've been trying to get into them for years, and wow, well done for scheduling a meeting, qualifying them, and finding out what's keeping them up at night, and that they're qualified opportunities. Brilliant. And of course, they feel the confidence in you because you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. Although most salespeople starting new jobs don't do any of this.
What
And
should be
really,
said also? What should be said also is if you are showing all of this activity in the CRM that the company's got, and you've spent some time, and I say one of the first things you should be doing is familiarize yourself with how to interact with that CRM. If you've got that there, that provides your evidence, and evidence is all important those first 30, 60 days, because they want to say you're not just saying what you're doing or doing what you're doing, but you're demonstrating it. Justice needs to be seen to be done. It's the same goes with sales.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's going to be overwhelming. Whenever you start a new job, you're going to be overwhelmed by all of the new stuff you're having to learn and take on board, and the relationships, the product, the sales process, their systems. Yes, so if they're using a CRM system, get to grips with it pretty quick if you can. Immerse yourself in it. This is going to be a bit of a sprint rather than the marathon, but you want to be understanding those processes, those systems, getting to grips with them, using them, making sure your logins work, checking the data that you have. And as I say, you don't need to do that all in one chunk. I personally think that the best way of doing that is to go through your list, start qualifying, start booking those appointments, start asking the questions that will uncover the opportunities, and record those qualified opportunities in your CRM if you have one. If you don't, then do it on a spreadsheet.
One thing is, when you join a new job, you may well be bringing some opportunities in your little black book, and at the point you've been working at somewhere sort of similar, you're out of your period where you've been on gardening leave, and you're able to then, so that point, when you're going through that little black book of leads that you bring with perhaps to the table, each one, as you add it to the CRM, it gives you an opportunity to check how real that opportunity is. Because you know what it's like, David. You come to the table, you come to the new business, and you say, I've got these great leads. When we start with you, I'll tell you that they're going to make me fly in my first couple of months. Well, that initial time when you're adding them into the CRM, which is during that familiarization period, so almost use them as the method to help familiarize yourself with it. It gives you an opportunity to check on how real they are.
Absolutely. And it's a golden opportunity when you start a new job to ask those very basic questions. If you've ever found it difficult to go back to an existing, what you thought was a sales opportunity, and just, there's something I've always wanted to ask. I've not asked it for a little while. Just wanted to check with you. If you were to go ahead with this purchase, when do you think that might be? Yeah. But now is your golden opportunity because you're new. Yeah, so I'm starting my new job. We've had an existing relationship. I've just got a couple of qualification questions for you. Yeah, if you were to go ahead, how much would you be in for? What is it, just in general terms, what sorts of products are you looking to buy? Yeah, and then you can start getting into your sales process. So you want to be qualifying that. And that really is your second 30-day period, your second month. So you can end that month with a pipeline that you're able to demonstrate, yes, to your bosses, but mainly for yourself, so that that you're going to have some business to start trying to close. And then the final 30 days of your 90 days, that's the time when you want to be trying to drive performance, close some deals, convert some of those opportunities into actual paying customers. Even if you fail to convert them, just by going through that whole process of trying gets your feet firmly under the table. So anything that you have qualified in your second 30 days, that you've taken through a sales conversation, see if there's anything to be closed. It could be that you landed on a list of opportunities that they provided you with, and you will perhaps have uncovered some opportunities that they have just failed to close, and all you need to do is close. That's happened to me in my employed career several times. Just in that early days process of going through the pipeline, Qualifying leads, I have found, and you will probably find if they've been at this for a while themselves, that there are just opportunities there waiting to be closed.
The funny,
So
I remember, I'll tell you a silly story about that. I joined a new business, having been like a prominent sales manager and then sales director of a team that got bought by another company. I left that and I joined another one. I was completely unknown, and I remember being shown all the different opportunities they had still there, but don't touch them. It was the previous guy, and he had some bad blood between himself. I went straight in to all the ones that he'd supposedly burnt bridges, and I literally started on saying, I'm not that guy. I'm a new guy, and I'm really keen to try and rebuild whatever has been broken. Most of them failed miserably, but 2 of them came with me. And within the first 2 months, I had a really cool deal on the table from a completely unexpected quarter as far as my new business was concerned. And I'll tell you what, that shows a mixture of resilience, bullheadedness, but also the willingness to put yourself out there and be exposed. And I think businesses, especially in sales, they like to see that you're willing to put your head above the parapet.
And they like to see the money coming in.
Well, yes, of course they do. Of course they do. But the fact that they saw the money coming in, the reports coming back that, wow, this guy's completely different kind of person to the old one, that changed a lot for me. And also, if you can get a decent deal on the table that closes in the second month, I wouldn't say the pressure's off.
The third month, I would say. But yeah.
Well,
I mean, as early as possible, whenever, of course, as early as possible. But
it shows them that you're not just in this to have a comfortable chair and a coffee beside the secretary every morning. It shows that you've got real intent. And if by the third month you've got a proper pipeline that you can talk through, that you can explain yourself, I think that's where to repeat what I said earlier. Knowledge of the CRM, knowing how to show evidence in the CRM, like some of them will record your phone calls. Some of them you have to type in there when you made the phone calls or when you made the follow-ups. Some of them will latch onto your emails and some of them won't. You need to work out where the evidence can mount up, because that becomes almost like a brag file. So you can point it and say, look, I have been doing all this stuff, and look, it's beginning to show fruition.
David, I would also argue that you are proving to yourself. It's a self-affirmation thing.
Yeah, it makes you feel. It makes you feel
confidence that you need.
It makes you feel more assured that you know what you're doing, and it makes you feel that you're on the cusp. David, as usual, would you like to summarize, please?
Absolutely. I know you like my summaries. So, you these days when you're going for a job in any kind of sort of professional sales for business services, particularly. You will be asked to present a 30, 60, and 90-day plan. It should be a plan that you are, definitely going to stick to. So stick to it. And that first 30 days is really all about learning and integration. So, getting to grips with the fundamentals of the company, their products, their sales processes. Second 30 days, so your 60 days is, building the momentum and the pipeline. Start prospecting, start qualifying, and build that qualified sales opportunity pipeline. And then 90 days, this is about performance and closing. So, one step, each one of the 30, 60, and 90-day plan builds on the previous 30 days. So, try and be doing some closing in your 90 days.
Only remains for me to say thank you so much, David. I'm a seasoned salesman, but actually hearing all that again made me feel a bit more reassured about what I'm doing right, and maybe G'd me up a little bit how to do more of it to focus my sales in. All of you who are starting new jobs or are in that first 30 days, if you do put effort into the planning up front, it's going to make you feel better about you as well, because you'll know what you're shooting for. Otherwise, you're coming around, flailing around, not entirely sure what your direction is. Until next time, make sure you keep your feet on the ground. Keep shooting for those sales stars. And remember, look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.
Ciao, ciao.